Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off number 98 for November 11th. Kevin Williams here. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Brandon?
Doing great. Doing great. This leaving for IAPA, leaving for Orlando this week. So super excited about it.
Yeah, Yep, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
All right. Well, let's dive in. And how are you going to change my mind this week?
Well, technology, XR, and as always, a little bit controversial, but I haven't really seen any of these demonstrations of these AR, MR experiences that claim to be as good as a laser tag experience really cutting the mustard. I would even argue that some of the developers of these experiences don't fully understand the allure and the certain elements of laser tag that have endured for all of the decades compared to what they're offering with their entertainment experiences. And I didn't pick any particular experience, MR experience. I'm not going to single one out, but I'm just leaving it open generally.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with you. And, I don't know that if it's one of those things where the technology just isn't there yet. The latency problems are, if it's the control mechanisms and how you interact with it aren't there yet, and that's just only going to get better. Or if is this really, I don't want to say the best we're ever going to have, but are there always going to be limitations in the real-time feedback in which you have with laser tag versus what you have with these systems? I have done other systems without naming names where, you're supposed to move your hands like this and it's supposed to pick up your hands and then something shoots out of your hands and it works like 7 out of the 10 times. And that's a frustrating user experience, especially if you're actively trying to compete against somebody else and shoot somebody with something. And obviously what they're trying to do here is some sort of like Harry Potter experience where you're shooting, spells back and forth at each other. And you can't do that with a laser tag system. I get that. But the types of experiences that we've seen just aren't there at the same level of real-time interactivity. I think this is one reason why we've seen the success of Gel Blaster actually in these laser tag arenas. It's actually the very opposite. It's actually much more tactile than MR or XR solutions. And that's what kids and that's what families are looking for, is that more tactile experience instead of these types of visual experiences.
What I always call physicality of the experience, the social physical experience, with the current MR systems, and of course I'll be clear, my definition of mixed reality is passing the real world imagery from the camera view of the headset into your vision, compared to AR, augmented reality, which is see-through, where you've got the lens in front of the real world and it's being displayed upon. And it is those AR glasses such as the Snap systems that we saw recently that are of interest for these kinds of experiences. I will name a company. Our friends at Mealy with the Hado system have offered something different to laser tag. They are actually not having you running through an arena, but you're playing kind of PvP, player versus player kinds of experiences. This particular wand experience is MR. It's using a Meta Quest 3S headset, so it's using its camera system and all of those effects that you're seeing are, computer based. They're being superimposed onto so we can see what the players are seeing, and that level of physicality, that level of compute power, that level of movement, because it's very fast moving, is what a physical system using lasers or pellets can achieve and achieve very well and prove compelling, where the technology at the moment is 80% there, 70% there. a little bit more time in the oven. So again, to answer the question, I should have really said not better, not there yet. And of course, one of the things that we're going to be seeing when we're over at IALPA, and it's going to be announced in a day or so's time, is that we're going to have a new entrant to the AR, MR style of immersive entertainment experience that is all rendered within the headset on real world environments. But more about that later on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, coming up after the quick break, we'll dive into the economic trends. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
Thank you, Alan One. And jumping into the economy. Now, you may have wondered why I was a little bit quizzical about coming out to IALPA. Well, there is one concern for all of us that are international travelers coming into America, and even some of the local flights. We've already had the first announcement of the impacts from the government close down or shutdown. That there is already an impact on air travel, and 10% of flights through the US and into the US have been impacted a week ago, and we're expecting the next shoe to fall depending on how long the shutdown continues. And even after the shutdown ends, there is the backlog that will have to be addressed. So fingers crossed that the IALPA crowd is not impacted by all of this.
I know it's certainly a concern for me too. I mean, just flying from Phoenix to Orlando, I sure hope that we solve the problem. You know, do hear, at least at the time of recording, that there is a group of senators that are working quietly on a solution, bipartisan group of senators working on a solution. So ideally, you know, this gets worked out. You know, they understand, I think, at this point, the pain is really beginning to set in for not only their own constituents, but also for them as a result of that. So there is a limit to how long I think they can remain obstinate and not pursue a you know, some sort of collaboration together. And so hopefully this does get resolved. But yeah, it is a concern for me, not just you know, domestically, but internationally.
Of time of recording, let's hope that this has aged badly and things have sorted themselves out. Back to the biz, and it's that Genda moment. I talked about it briefly, that we were going to have some news, and the news is yet another acquisition by the corporation, another mid-scale, what I would call mini arcade chain. Not really popped up on many people's radars. There are quite a considerable number of what would have been seen as the old school street route operator chains that have upgraded themselves. They offer a couple of machines, maybe some vending systems within hotels or within truck stops. This particular Neo Enterprises has about 9 facilities dotted around North America, and you know, they have been hoovered up by the great vacuum cleaner that is Genda at the moment. Perfect fit for their Kittleton special wishes. And then hold your breath a little longer and bang, something that I think has taken a little longer than I expected, but we now have a Chinese office for Genda. It was a logical move on the chessboard of corporational business, and they've opened up 2 branches on both sides of the large territory, and I'm looking forward to the Guangzhou Genda moment when we're at AAA next year in April, because then we will get a better idea. One of the things that I've been recently writing about in Replay is, you know, the impacts on the market, and I see having a Chinese presence from manufacturing and design is essential to be able to then import those products in. We've seen Raw Thrills do that with their relationship with Wallap, the same way that our friends at Sega have a relationship with Wallap. And, I think we'll begin to see Genda starting to roll its own machines more than they've been doing so far.
This
Moving on.
is
Sorry, please, Brandon.
Oh no, I'm just going to actually comment on the U.S., the North American, continued expansion. This is something that I'm just surprised that we're not really hearing anybody else talk about, at least externally. Maybe it's getting some attention internally within their competitors here, but it definitely, if this is a powerhouse already and only continues to get more and more powerful.
It is the elephant in the room. I know certain manufacturers I've spoken to make a point of not mentioning it. I'm sure it's like the internet. They're hoping that it will go away, or something else will happen and it won't get as bad as I am alluding to. I don't mean bad in an uncomfortable way. I mean bad in an epoch-shaking moment for the North American amusement trade. If you know anything about the vending industry used to have multiple distributors and very long lunches, and then over a period of time, consolidation, and we're down to about 4 key North American vending distribution houses. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the beginning of the carpet roll-up for the North American market, if not for the international amusement market, because other investment houses and corporations will take a look at what Genda's doing stealthily and easily and wonder why they don't do the same thing. And they have access to a clean sheet of paper and considerable investment support, where maybe established distributors in the amusement sector don't have that access. Moving on now, our friends at Ocean, so Oxygen, if you're familiar with them, UK trampoline and active play organization. They have a wide selection of facilities, heavily on the trampoline and active play. They've undertaken to acquire Ninja Warriors UK, which is an operation that is based upon the TV show that was here in the UK. The kind of, you can see the game show where kids try and complete activities for high scores to go through to championships. About 9 facilities were built around the UK based on that property, and our friends Oxygen have rolled that up and added that to their operation. A logical inclusion. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Ninja Warrior component being added to Oxygen facilities as maybe an additional attraction to their trampoline resource, and an example of what we're seeing in the market at the moment of consolidation.
Yeah, I think this is interesting because actually I was doing some research into leisure television rights as a limited as a company, and their whole goal is to basically build parks based on popular popular activity or popular TV shows, and try to tie in their theming. And so they've obviously done that with Ninja Warrior very overtly. But when I was researching, that's the only concept they've developed so far. They were founded in 2021, so they're not very old. So it does make me wonder if LTR, Leisure TV Rights, is going to continue to develop new concepts, or if this was just their exit out of the market. They did 5 locations all around Ninja Warrior, and now they're done. Because it's an interesting concept that they developed, as a corporate, as a parent company. But maybe they just found that there wasn't enough TV shows that they could turn into active play parks.
That's my read on the situation. They had great aspirations. Their first 2 facilities were pushed heavily linked to the TV show. They gave me their Little Lions vibe, to be honest, with their Crystal Maze kind of thing, and then stalled at 9. You may say 9's an interesting number for the UK. I get the feeling that if you're going to pay those type of licensing rights, and try and roll out something, you're looking for a slightly higher number and maybe a more prominent market positioning. Didn't happen. Exit strategy. Now it's Oxygen's turn. Next up, restructuring of the C-suites, constant, going on at the moment. It is that time of the year where corporations and investors look at the bottom lines, see what's been achieved, and looking at what the 2026 market is going to be like, wanting to put the right people in the right positions, to be honest. And CFO stepping down usually means that a restructuring of the financial positioning, and I wouldn't be surprised if another member of the C-suite also moves on. But again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if you're not familiar with United Parks, they run the SeaWorld, the Busch Gardens, the Sesame Places. They're a no-name. Looking at ownership and control and moving on, and Walt Disney, through their investment of their TV chain, had been licensing or had acquired the rights to show the Doctor Who, the British television sci-fi legendary series. Sadly, due to bad writing and a little bit of political machinations, what some people would call woke, other people would complain was a needed reboot. Anyway, the audience didn't like the reboots that Doctor Who have been going through, and even with the big budgets that Disney brought to the table for the production of the programs, the content of the writing was found wanting. Disney has backed out very publicly that they will not be taking up the rest of Doctor Who, and now the BBC is admitting that they're going to put this on hiatus for a while they work out what they're going to do with this legendary property, which they seem to have manhandled. The reason why I bring this up is there was talk of Doctor Who theme park experiences going in to at least 2 of the new parks that are in development at the moment in the UK, as well as a park in the US was actually circling around the Doctor Who pre the new series season, and now both of those projects are on hold as well. So this is kind of the fortunes of drastically changing a format and making it not popular with your audience is a great way for it to not be around anymore.
Oh man, I sure hope that Doctor Who continues with with BBC, that they take it back and they continue to develop it. It's so iconic, and I've enjoyed all the different seasons over the years, at least that I've been watching it.
I gave up watching. I was a Tom Baker fan, and had a chance to meet the man. I love sci-fi like yourself, but there's some sci-fi that not really my cup of tea, and Doctor Who went in a different direction. And I'm like many of those individuals that voted with my leisure time somewhere else. Though I had the chance many moons ago to go through a Doctor Who live experience where they created a very impressive themed walkthrough experience that had a recreation of the TARDIS, or some of the control room of the TARDIS. It was excellent, and it was well received, and it was incredibly popular, and it was going to lead to a rollout of more Doctor Who experiences. But sadly, the BBC's management thought that they knew better, and that project crumbled to dust, and it was a big loss. And I think that's the kind of a pattern that we're seeing with certain of the BBC executives who are also going through C-suite changes as I speak. Pinstripes, we talked about this briefly in Open and Shut. Many promises had been made that they were going to stay open during the Chapter 11 and Chapter 12 processing. Sadly, we now learn through local press that of the 18 facilities, 10 of them are going to close straight away, or have already closed and have instantly put up signs. I'm not happy about this, because people were led to believe that they could still book for events and parties with the understanding that this operation was going to stay open. and people were looking to their jobs here within those 10 facilities. And now I am wondering if the birds are circling over the heads of the remaining 8 facilities that still have their doors open. I'm trying to hunt down those 8 facilities to keep tabs on them. But again, serious situation here. And we're not seeing a white knight appearing over the hills to come in and save them. So I think we are looking at a terminal dive for pinstripes.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. There's no chance that the 8 locations that are remaining open don't eventually close over the next, I would give it even 6 months at the most.
I hope that someone can come in and save maybe the 8 last profitable operations, and then use that as a launch pad to rebrand and develop. But I'm a half full kind of guy at the moment regarding saving brands. Moving on, and saving brands, saving operations is very much in the minds of the cinema industry. After the blip of success at the beginning of the year with a number of films that seemed to show that Hollywood was back on track, we've had then multiple flops, and quite considerable flops of tentpole films. We talked about that previously regarding Disney properties such as Fantastic Four and Tron Ares being incredible failures, quite considerable bombs. And we have seen other films that were expected to do big numbers also bombing during the October period, which has now led many to be very concerned about the conditions, excuse me, of the cinema sector in North America. Interesting that where someone's failure in the cinema sector is another operation's success. But let's not jump ahead too quickly. What are your views about the cinema scene in North America, Brandon?
There is something culturally changing here in the US. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it yet. I've been thinking about this actually for a while, or at least for the most of this year. But something has begun to shift. Obviously, as more and more content is available at home, as TVs improve, as sound systems improve, and they come at a lower cost, my level of experience, is increasing at home, along with access to really good, strong content. But there's still something, that is broken with the current cinema model, and I'm not sure what that is yet. But there's a significant change. This isn't a matter of the consumer spending habits changing or anything else. This is a cultural shift that's happening. People are not going to movie theaters to watch films, even films that are designed specifically for movie theaters that are going to have a better experience in movie theaters. They're still not doing it. One of the just things that has been bubbling in my mind is, as people get used to consuming content, even mediocre content, on smaller and smaller screens like their phones, if they're willing to watch on a plane, for example, a new release movie on their phone, sitting in the back of a TV, with some earbuds in their ears, and to consume Fantastic Four for the first time, if they're willing to do that because they're doing that all the time, every day on their phone, then what is going to get them to move from their house with a bigger screen than their phone to actually go and watch a film? I think it's the fact that we have shifted to those smaller screens to consume that content that has actually begun to really make the major shifts.
I call it a social change. I, like yourself, have been following this. I was actually thinking about this during the lockdown period of COVID, about what would be the new market, what would be happening to social entertainment, what would be happening to cinema going, what would be happening to theatre industry, which is also something that is not talked about, but the theatre industry has also gone through quite a painful baptism after COVID, even 4 years, 5 years on. You're right about the small screen. I'm going to go back to the content. It's the content stupid. And mediocre content a couple of years ago could be put on the big screen and get a reasonable viewing. If I want mediocre content, I can get that from my streaming services. At the same time, I can get fantastic content from my streaming services. So my largesse to spend money to go to a sticky floored, badly maintained, overpriced popcorn facility to see a mediocre film or badly written interpretation of a popular brand is limited. I'm circling big red star around what happens with the AMC deal with Netflix. If we see K-pop hunters do good numbers, then it is definitely the content more than the social change. If we see that do okay numbers and still see Avatar not break the budgets that we're expecting Avatar to break, then we've got a serious declinal problem which the industry is going to have to go to. And part of their argument, of course, in the cinema industry that was mentioned at a number of panels during CinemaCon was the issue with the new competition. You've touched upon some of the competition, streaming service subscriptions. We've got it at home. Why do we need to go? I don't want to see Fantastic Four at the cinemas. I've heard that it's mediocre. We'll wait for it to come out on our streaming service and we'll watch it then. And I can watch it off my phone or off our big screen, and the popcorn's a lot cheaper at home. But we've also got competition from other brands now. And competitive socializing may be one of those vampires that is sucking the blood out of the cinema sector. Our friends at Cosm made a major announcement that they have just signed quite a considerable long-term partnership to stream live the NBA series, all of their major playoffs and their finals. So these watch party experiences at a Cosm, the best seat in the house. And, I totally would rather watch a basketball game at a Cosm than actually go to watch it live. There are benefits to watching it live, but the food and the drink and the comfort seatings is a lot better than especially certain of the stadia in America that I've had to endure. That said, we've now seen a line drawn in the sand, and I'll touch upon this a little bit later, but I'm interested for your point of view, Brad.
Oh, 100% Cosm is a better experience than going into the stadium. I mean, it depends what you're looking for. If you want to be, you're right there on the floor and you're high-fiving the mascot and you're watching, maybe you're into watching the cheerleaders during halftime or something like that. Like, okay, sure. But if you're sitting anywhere up off, I'd say higher than the 14th row, you are going to have a better experience at Cosm than you will at the actual stadium. Waiting in the lines to get into the parking, to get out of the parking, to get your concessions. Everything else is just a worse experience than what you have at Cosm. So this is a massive win for Cosm to get the NBA partnership, but frankly also a huge win for NBA because it's only going to get more viewership for their games through the Cosm partnership as well.
And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one of the fallbacks that the cinema industry thinks about is that they're going to look at the F1 arcades and the Cosms and the success of their watch parties and maybe start to think about live sports presentations on the cinema screens, which is really playing a late catch-up. But again, we can touch upon that. Stealth mode. We have now a number of social entertainment venues that have been bubbling in the background of the dark web for me, waiting for them to finally go live with a web page and drop their trousers a little bit more to reveal who they are. A lot of these stealth social entertainment projects are built around IP properties or unique experiences that the developers feel are one of their kind and will drive, audiences to their facilities. Ball Social, the marketing team, I bet spent thousands coming up with that name. Ball Social is a sportstainment environment, very heavy on the social engagement, very heavy on the drink and the food. Think of Toca Social, but a little bit more active and a lot more physical. I can't go into too much details about the actual experience because they're still in stealth mode, but like our friends at Pool House have now revealed that they have an opening schedule and a plan. mid-January, I am now told. Pool House has gone dark again about their opening. They were meant to have opened their first facility in London around December time. I wouldn't be surprised if January becomes a crowded period, especially with the EAG amusement show taking place around that month. It would be very advantageous for the investors and those in the sector to circle around that. But, you know, here's one that is coming out of stealth mode and claims to have a phenomenal entertainment experience.
Well, it'd be interesting, and you would love to even be able to sign up for an email newsletter, but they have no website to be able to do that. So I guess nobody's going to be able to have any information about them at all until they open, because, you know, why would you open and put up a website just 2 months before you're ready to open doors?
They have a non-operational website which has just gone live, and it's obvious that they're kicking themselves that they haven't, you know, done the obvious, and I think they're playing a little bit of catch up. Maybe we'll know a lot more by the time of IALP, I'll put it that way. And another company that's coming out of stealth mode, they all seem to like the darkened metrics for their facilities. You know, that plays both ways when you do something like that. But we've mentioned Rival Social, and now they have started their countdown. By the time I think this particular recording goes live, they should have started their soft opening at the Canterbury facility, and we will have a lot more information about their take on the social venture. They're going for a very much they've observed the market, and they've clearly tried to emulate a bit of everything, a bit from Flight Club, a lot from the social base that Dave and Buster's attempted. You know, the eat, drink, compete kind of narrative is very Buster's-esque, shall we say. For me, this is a spaghetti moment because they have got a bit of everything in their facilities. We've been able to start seeing examples of some of the products they're putting in their facilities. They put stuff in from our friends at Conductor Game Vault. They've put stuff in from 501. So there is the augmented darts. There is the illuminated bowling. Some new, some old, some interesting. And as you can see, they do have a working website.
Yes, yeah, they do. And look, as I mentioned, they enter your email to get notified about more information. So that's all I was looking for. You don't have to do too much more than that. Give me a little bit of an experience and of what you're going to have in your rooms, and then give me a place to sign up for more information. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this is, as we talked about on Open and Shut, basically looks like an advertisement for 501 Games and 501 Fun and Conductor. It's like they got together, they formed a joint partnership, said, "Hey, can we put all of our stuff in here?" And then that's what they did. But yeah, I mean, look, this is at least solving for one of the things we talk about a lot on this, and then also on Open and Shut, is having one concept is an issue when it comes to repeat visitation. Here is a place where we can go, and I can go with my friends, and we can compete multiple different things. And look, if the shuffleboard isn't available, well, they've got the mini golf. If the mini golf isn't available, let's go do an escape room. And so we can go back regular times. And so while it does feel like they're just throwing everything at the wall, they are at least providing multiple options for guests to come and experience on a regular, repeat basis.
Let's hope that they have learned the lessons of what other companies who've just thrown everything at the wall and hopes that it sticks, that the guest experience and the guest progression through the facility and what they can play and what they can't play and how much time they want to allocate has been thought through. The guest's journey is something that I spend a lot of time on new projects, making sure that you don't overload the guest. In many cases, too much is a bad thing. So it's hard to get the right mix. But we will see. And hopefully by the time, let's see, after IALPA, we'll get a chance to walk around the facility and get some feedback on what it is. But be prepared for more of these stealth warehouse announcements in the coming weeks. One that we touched upon on Open and Shut, in the Netherlands, a particular company has developed a concept which was originally for an outdoor experience, which they've now brought in for competitive socializing. They've opened the first of 2 facilities. One of the first of these facilities is their outdoor approach, and now they brought it indoors. Mini golf without the golf. You're now kicking the ball around the holes, showing your short game skills with the ball. My concern here is, we've touched upon it, that it's going to be difficult not to fight the urge with some of the players of just kicking the living hell out of the ball around the facility, and suddenly you're ducking from over exuberant children giving it all they can. That said, if this is an interesting concept, it may be a European interesting concept that could roll out much more than maybe it would internationally. But again, the jury's out on this until we get more information.
Yeah, this follows for me. I don't know if there's a version of golf, like actual like real golf, that is done with a soccer, football or soccer ball as well. You just go to golf courses and you play golf on a major golf course. So it's just basically shrinking that concept down into something that is a little bit unique. I really do worry about how the robustness of the different obstacles as well. When I look at that one picture you have here with these little pegs sticking up out of the ground, and if I'm kicking a ball hard into one of those pegs, man, I don't know how long until that thing breaks off.
How many times can the staff say, don't kick the ball too hard? And frustration will cause people to kick the ball hard as well. So if they don't get that shot, they'll welly it. Anyway, let's judge it after it's had some seasoning of actual players. But 2 sports-tainment kind of platforms coming into competitive socializing. Very interesting. Talking about the openings and closings, and I'm seeing a pattern with the restaurant side, or shall we say, the fast casual and light casual dining sections. The major brands overextended themselves, and they've been using the current financial conditions to cut back, readdress themselves, cut the dead wood, remove C-suites that aren't performing, and restarting themselves. So a bad news story that TGI Fridays had fallen into bankruptcy and were closing down is suddenly turned into a good news story that they have been saved. Oh, but it's only X number of stores have been saved. We're only keeping, of the 80 facilities, we're only keeping 50, or of the 50 sites, we're closing down 36, but the rest are saved. Isn't this a good news story? When really what you've done is you've kicked out the licensee because he's made a mess of everything. You've gone through with a very sharp pencil the profit and loss of all of these facilities, selected the best ones, got rid of the dead wood or the leases that you don't like in a way, and then you're going to repurpose yourself, relaunch yourself, reposition yourself now. And it's surprise, surprise, the original owners of the IP or the license that are coming in to save the day, i.e. they're picking up a UK operation for pennies on the dollar. And that can be said of Hooters. I've talked about the Hooters brand going through the machinations, and they're closed down. And then, surprise, surprise, the franchise has been brought by Hooters creators or management team, founders. And also they've acquired some of the 200 Hooters. Again, sharp pencil, found the most profitable ones, the ones that maybe are up to speed, up to code, don't have problems with their lease agreements. And surprise, surprise, Hooters will be back, and you're living a little bit off the nostalgia of, oh, I thought they've gone bankrupt. Oh, but they're still open. We'll go inside kind of approach, which is another kind of thing to do when you're closing down and then relaunching, hoping that you can capture the magic back in the bottle, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a little bit of insight into this. Anyway, be familiar with some of the inside track here, and I think one of the things that they're really looking to do is to basically take Hooters back to its roots. and try to, again, like it's part of that nostalgia component that we've talked about on the show, and that's really what they're trying to lean into here. Is, hey, look,
A barrel.
we know that this worked then with a certain population. That population is looking for that nostalgia. We believe it can work again.
Excuse me, yeah. As we saw with the Cracker Barrel situation, where they tried to get rid of the nostalgia and then had to pivot quite heavily to get back on it. But thank you for sharing that insight. Brands are important. The one thing about 2025, I think, that we can all take away is how much intellectual property and brands have played a part in this market. And for the build-up for IALPA, we get the stories of the companies that are acquiring IP to bring into the phygital or the physical market and turn into phygital experiences. And our friends at Falcons Beyond, known for their work with branding and facility development and attraction development, have turned to Cyberpunk. So beginning of end of last year, it was LAI Games and their purchase of the Cyberpunk property to put into their eventful amusement product, and I know we'll have more about to talk about that particular product at IALPA. But the Cyberpunk brand is strong. 30 million copies sold worldwide, can't be wrong. And so it is now going to be turned into a immersive entertainment experience. The concept is going to be fleshed out by Falcons. We still don't know exactly if this is going to be a social entertainment or a live experience. I put my money on a live walkthrough experience similar to the John Wick's experience that we're seeing in Area 15. But that's we've no knowledge of what the final plan is going to be.
This will be really interesting. I mean, Falcons Beyond has had some really big successes, and then they've had some big failures. And so it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. And, obviously it also location matters. Location mattered with one of their big failures, and location will matter with whether or not this has success too, depending on the level and fidelity of the experience.
Yeah, I picked that picture without thinking about it.
Yes, but exactly.
They have had successes in the past. Yeah, they are proven, but like all entities in this sector, ups and downs is based on experience. Anyway, it's that time.
Yeah, well, coming back after the break, we'll continue with more of the business trends.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Thank you, Intercard. Now looking at the trends of the tech, we were talking about MR, mixed reality, and VR. Well, the restructuring has started. I've been alluding to this for the last 6 months, that our friends at Meta were living on borrowed time regarding the proof of their pudding, as it were, regarding VR. VR now is a term that is treated a little bit more concerningly in the consumer sector, because consumer platforms haven't achieved what they were hoping for, where we are lucky in location-based entertainment to have an audience that is interested in novelty and experiences, prepared to try VR in bite-sized attractions. Long-term retention of VR in the consumer sector has proven difficult, and so now the C-suites are being reshuffled. Surprise, surprise! After Meta Reality Labs broke itself into the Horizon OS platform content, and on the head-mounted display and AR glasses development, wearables and content, they've had more restructuring. We now learn that leaders from those divisions have been pushed onto other aspects of the company, working on their AI platforms for Meta. At the same time, we're also seeing that the Horizon OS, which was meant to be a VR and MR platform, software environment or firmware that would be able to be licensed by other companies to be put into their headsets is now being broken into its own profit center. That usually means that it's proven harder to galvanize that operation than was originally intended. And the metaverse side of the business is being separated even more. Meta will never admit failure, but I wouldn't be surprised if old Yellow has taken out the back of the barn in a couple of months' time. As their CTO said at the beginning of the year, this was a make or break period for them if they couldn't prove that their path was going in the right direction. That said, rumor on the street is that Meta has now started the process of competing with Samsung and competing with Apple towards creating their mixed reality, or as Apple calls it, their spatial computer system. So rather than the full VR rigs that we had been seeing pushed through the Quest series, we're now going to be seeing maybe 2027. The rumor on the street is a Apple Vision Pro competitor, a Galaxy XR competitor, though they may find coming late to that particular race may bring its own problems.
This is a company, Meta in general, that just can't really seem to figure out what its long-term vision is. I understand they want to build super intelligence. That's the big push now, but yet they're still playing around with this. They're not, I mean, these guys aren't Google. They're not Alphabet. They don't do a great job at spinning up, things in other businesses and spinning out other businesses and coming up with unique concepts. This is a company that struggles with its identity and really what it's around here on the planet to do.
They were sold a vision of what VR could be, and it didn't achieve that. The sunk cost fallacy seems to be writ large here, that they won't admit that they may have been sold snake oil, that they may have overhyped and over-egged. They are getting high on their own supply. Many people who follow my writing and my observations know that I was very uncomfortable with the acquisition of Oculus by Meta. And I told you so doesn't really cut it for the people who are losing their jobs or who've brought into this vision only to be let down. This isn't good. Let's hope that this latest reshuffling leads to a proper reshuffling, because I know that there's one more twist of the knife that is going to come before the end of the year, which we will have to wait for that to be revealed. We touched upon Cosm and how they've done their deal with the NBA, and then surprise, surprise, we also hear that the Apple Vision Pro is also doing a deal with sports to start doing live sports presentations. Now, from those in the know, media consumption is the only saving grace on this $3,000 face warmer that is the Apple Vision Pro. The productivity stuff didn't materialize, the killer app didn't materialize, but people talk about the experience of watching films and video and sports on the system as being compelling. Not killer, but compelling. And so Apple is pivoting hard on this, though, as I said at the beginning, I feel the battle lines are being drawn against how much of a wow do you get watching the NBA on your Apple Vision Pro, hoping that the game doesn't go over 1 hour, 90 minutes, compared to sitting down in the comfy lazy boy and having hot and cold running alcohol from the Cosm experience. These are the questions that need to be asked, because from the licensor's point of view, the film, the content, the sports channel, if they have a relationship, they're going to have to pick one or the other in many cases. In this particular case, the NBA is big enough to pick both, but it may be an experiment to put it onto a spatial computing system that only has a few thousand users compared to a few thousand every couple of hour visitors. to a Cosm facility. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But this is a line in the sand that I think we need to witness.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, this feels to me more like a grasp for life for the Apple Vision Pro, trying to find, again, you could talk about content, trying to find the content that's going to drive people to spend the several $1,000s to buy the Apple Vision Pro and strap it onto your head to watch a game. I don't know that why I would want to watch a game from my home on my Apple Vision Pro versus my TV. I can see why I would want to go to Cosm versus watch something at home, but why would I make the choice to watch Apple Vision Pro versus the big TV with the full audio that I have available to me in my home, where I can actually sit next to friends and talk with them on my own couch? That seems to me, this is, if I'm going to be watching something maybe on the plane through my Apple Vision Pro, okay, maybe that's a better experience than watching it on my phone. That's attached to the back of the thing. But anyway, I think this just seems to be a grasping at straws for Apple to try to validate their product.
They are looking for validation, and Nobby No Mates, who owns one of these Vision Pros, doesn't have any friends, so he doesn't have to worry about. No. Jokes aside, it is a grasp. And a very obvious one. And I think at some point in time, Apple, like Meta, are going to have to admit the sunk cost fallacy over this one. We're in build up for IALPA and continuing the branding and IP, and also some unique takes. I just grabbed a couple. The press releases are flooding in. As I sit here, I'm being inundated with even more press releases. Why our industry has waited for the last minute to flood us with announcements for the show rather than spread it out over October, we will have to find out. But a lot of these companies have gone through new marketing and media representatives, so maybe they know something we don't. Anyway, our friends at Sega Amusement International, they have a couple of interesting surprises up their sleeves. A lot more will be revealed at the show, but in the build-up, we have skee ball fused with mini golf. Putt it party. Okay. The guys have been staying up on the branding. It looks very interesting, and I think it's got a very strong competitive social bent to it. Excuse me. We look forward to trying it out at the show. How well the putting approach to skee ball works. Skee ball has a trick to it, a knack to it, the length of the runway, and if you know your skee balls, how to do the deflection shot to always get into the center is one of those things that is appealing to skee ball, that you can show skill in it. And it'll be interesting to see if this putt it has the same level of engagement.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say, because I do want to check this out at IAPA Expo and play it myself. I do like the fact that they are synced and they are linked together. So you do have you can compete together, or you can play on your own as so that is a nice additional component here. But the thing that we were talking about with kicking the ball at mini golf, the version of mini golf that Striker. But what are you going to do here? Just whack the ball as hard as possible, and wonder how long until the screen in the back breaks. And I know it's protected screen, but how long until something breaks?
We should see. Sega have licensed toy brands before. Bop It will be familiar to many of you, and their latest entry into incorporating a toy brand. Nostalgia, going back to what we were saying earlier, firing up the audience. Simon, now I talked about this last sound off of who are you aiming these new redemption products at, and those that remember Simon will be of a certain age, or they will be the Gen Xers, the Gen Zers and the millennials who've liked the nostalgia bent. But that isn't your normal target audience for redemption products. So it's clear that this Simon infused arcade game is aiming at that market and is showing Sega's spin, I would say, towards targeting branded products that also are a zeitgeist for their key audience of players.
This one is weird to me because this is not at all the implementation that I would have expected with a partnership with Hasbro for Simon. I'm actually a little bit disappointed with it. There's any number of things they could have done to have a take a ball and throw it at a digital screen game. Like there's any number of ways they could have implemented that type of gameplay, and because we've seen them, they exist out there. I was really hoping that this was actually related to some of the similar gameplay to the Simon game, where I got more redemption points depending on how well I actually followed the pattern, and then other people were able to watch that right on the back screen versus just throw balls randomly at whatever's lit up. Like that to me is like why spend all of the money licensing Simon in order to just throw balls at a lit up screen and have nothing to do with the actual Simon gameplay at all. And so it's a little bit disappointing because I was actually really excited about this when I heard it, and then was like immediately disappointed when I just saw it was a ball throwing game.
Caveat: I'm not the target audience, and so I understand what they've done, and I think to paraphrase what you're saying is good IP badly utilized. I would argue, was it an IP looking for a home or a home looking for an IP? Did our friends in China have this kind of machine layout blinged to perfection, and it was easy to just pivot it and turn it into a Simon rather than a Down the Clown? I'm not going to read too much into it. I'm going to speak to the R&D team at Sega just to get a little bit more of an idea, try and get into their brain size with this. I wouldn't be surprised if this is not the first of many applications of this IP into our market. And Hasbro and Mattel are very canny when it comes to deployment. And I wouldn't be surprised that this product hasn't tested well while it's been on location test. So again, there's going to be a lot more to this than just disappointment, I think. Our friends at LAI Games suddenly announced that they're going to have about 5 new products at the show. The list is there. Information is limited. Again, we will talk more about it at the show. I am looking forward to getting into the All Stars VR system because I've been hearing some interesting stories about the product. And it's important that we understand exactly where LAI is positioning their product lineup. You'll be noticing that they're going for a certain type of product release recently compared to in other years where they were very heavy redemption. A new name, but again, more IP and more branding utilization. So Nerf, another toy brand, has been given the treatment, and where we were kind of skeptical about the implementation of ball throwing at holes without a digital screen, well, we've got the flip side of that. We've got ball throwing at a digital screen based upon the success of the Nerf property. Don't know too much about the game, how much the screen interacts with this. We already have the Nerf live experience or the Nerf gaming experience as a location-based entertainment facility project. So it's interesting to see Nerf now thrown into the amusement market. And our friends at Tokata have also licensed Pokémon, a very important brand. They've applied it to 2 types of redemption, video redemption product, as well as licensing a video game property, Fall Guys. If you haven't played Fall Guys, it's a physics-based competing game, very fun to play, and they've created a kind of active entertainment version of that where you jump on the pad and control your character on screen. I am interested about these IPs being brought to the amusement side because it's now showing that even the mid-size amusement developers are now embracing branding IP towards supporting their position.
Yeah, and Takata Gaming is they've obviously focused primarily on gaming initially, and they've recently moved into the amusement and redemption component. And almost every single one of their amusement and redemption pieces, beyond the ones that we just talked about here, the ones that have been out on the floor for a little while, are Zombie Snatchers, Tommy Waterfalls. Like these are, almost everything they do has some sort of IP component to it.
Oh, yeah. Rub IP onto an okay game, and you make a fantastic game. I think is the mentality that some people have.
Is that how that
Moving
works?
away
Okay.
from, yeah, well, the movement towards the embracing of the nostalgia of amusement and retro continues at a pace in the consumer toy sector. Basic Fun, known for their keychains and their mini-cades, and also their merch products. They launched their Arcade Classic Ultra series, Arcade Classic Retro Ultra series. And it is going away from the one-up arcade of the mini, relatively furniture size but mini implementation of classic retro, now creating bar tops. I would call these size systems for home usage that come with multiple games and have some themality to the core game that they're supporting in the design of the cabinetry. It's interesting to see this. And again, it makes me unhappy that this is not something that we in the amusement sector are jumping on board and supporting and rolling into our own mix. But it still shows how bankable retro arcade still is in the market. And then finally, really, a warning to facility operators. Story that hasn't got a lot of coverage. I don't know if it's because it's in an Australian story or if it's a little bit of an uncomfortable story in the current climate. But what do you do during the downtime winter period at your theme park or water park if you haven't, if you close for the season? You've got that empty parking lot going begging. Well, if you happen to know a Chinese electric car manufacturer that's shipping new products into the country and they need a parking space to leave these cars temporarily for while they build up their supplies, then hey, that's money's in. You're utilizing your empty parking lots, and as soon as you get ready to open for the season, these cars will have gone. No, oh dear. They've just created one of the most expensive electric car parking spaces in Australia. The Chinese electric car company's products were not as good as was hoped, and so they couldn't get rid of them. So the company went bankrupt and has left all of those cars there. Let's hope that the hot weather in Australia doesn't cause those things to self-explode. Sometimes doing a deal with the devil will bite you in the bum.
Oh, I feel so bad at some level. Like, they're just trying to find ways to make additional revenue with some of the land they have that's underutilized. And this is probably not anywhere on their SWOT analysis as a potential threat when they made this deal. And it's funny and it's not, but I do feel bad for them.
I am concerned about the number of electric cars that are being manufactured that then never get used because they're either schlop or dangerous, or the company goes bankrupt before they can get momentum going. That's a waste of resources, but also it is now a chemical danger at that location, because sadly CV cars have a problem sometimes of self-combusting. So it's going to be a HazChem situation. We wish the park operators well that they come up with a solution to get back to normality. Maybe they should start up a dealership. Anyway, quickly going through the AI news, and the latest of the legal ramifications gets pushed forward. A judge has allowed certain authors to actually start legal proceedings against OpenAI for the infringement of their copyright in the large language learning training data that was used to create their AI. I think that now that a judge has allowed this, that OpenAI will try and settle this out of court as fast as possible and try and nip this in the bud. But as I talked about, the Disney legal attack against the Chinese AI platforms, the wagons are beginning to circle around these companies on how they've created their data, as well as at the same time of writing this, we're learning that there's also some questions about the financial validity of some of these companies based on their expectations. Yeah. And then, of course, we had the big hype over Neo. This was the robot that was, for 20,000 buckaroonies or a 500 monthly stipend, you could have a robot come in and fail to properly do dishwasher door closings or fridge openings. It was very badly ripped by the internet after the Wall Street Journal expose. I don't think they did it as an expose. They were, taking 3 minutes for a robot to be able to put one item in a dishwasher and close the doors was embarrassing. And then we learned the big truth, that it wasn't a autonomous robot, but it is what we're now seeing happen more commonly. It was a techno slave inside the system. It was a telepresence operator that's going to be wandering around your house as a robot, looking at everything, unless you buy if you add the package of having your faces blurred for the operator. And of course, hey, you've got to allow us to use a teleoperator at first because we need the data to learn for the algorithm. Hey, you're a beta tester. Please give us your $20,000. I'm very dismissive with this. I'm very concerned that we're seeing teleoperators being snuck into these packages and being caught out, as we found out with Amazon Fresh. Oh, it's a fantastic AI. Oh, no, it's people in India looking at the camera footage. Oh, no, it is a self-operating robot. Oh, no, there's a man behind the curtain. And here we have this. We had it with the Tesla robot, and now we're having it with this. And I think we're going to have a crisis moment about how we name and shame these products that are using human operators. They have to admit it at the beginning. And we also know if we're going to become the guinea pigs in these systems, then, don't charge us full price and hope that you can live off of our free data.
Yeah, especially given the fact that they've been getting $200 deposits for every single, for these, who knows how many of these deposits have been paid with the expectation that these are going to start rolling out for delivery in early 2026, and then to find out that, oh wait, this thing is actually going to be operated by a human. And look, these things happen all the time when they're doing early showcases and they're trying to pitch their thing. It's not fully ready for production, but they want to show it on stage to try to get investor interest, etc. Like this is what vaporware has been for years, right? So you have this, but this is but if this is going to be how they actually operate this thing in your home, yeah, that is an issue, and is a deal, and is a company killer potentially, depending on how bad this press is.
Yeah, I think they're teetering at this moment in time. They're going to have to do some damage limitation, and their European CEO's charms are going to have to be in full flow to try and rectify the situation. Maybe some more time in the oven, maybe a test project where they use human operators, telepresence operators, on a test scheme and then migrate towards the autonomous system may be the only way to salvage the situation. But again, a black eye for the technology, the next one. Anyway, I've touched on a number of subjects there. Hopefully I haven't put too many of our audience to sleep. If you have any information you want to pass on, please hit me up on LinkedIn or give me an email, and please stay up to date with the latest Stinger reports and well as the latest Entertainment Social Arena. We have a new one out already, and we've got, of course, the build up to IALPA and the other shows that are taking place in its shadow to report upon. Hopefully I've covered everything there, Brandon.
Oh yeah, I think so. There's going to be so much to cover in just 2 weeks after IAPA, but until then, Kevin, I'll see you in just a few days.
See you in a few days.